Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the morning of Monday, July 16th, 2000, or July 17th, 2023. Stand by for a special commentary. Well, I see CNN is at it again. Boy, this news agency just doesn't understand anything, does it? It's reporting about the Ukraine attack on the bridge between the Crimea and Russia. And it's saying that it's a final link between Russia and the Crimea. Yeah. And the Ukraine's trying to reclaim the Crimea. Really? Boy, CNN just doesn't understand the Crimea, does it? No. And you're supposed to have journalists at CNN. I haven't seen any there. Where's Wolf Blitzer? Why isn't he coming out and saying the fact of the Crimea is it's got the problem just like Israel? The Temple Mount in Israel is a very sacred item for three religions. It doesn't belong to Israel, it doesn't belong to the Muslims, it doesn't belong to the Christians, and it definitely doesn't belong to the Jewish. And it's the problem that you see here in Ukraine. Like I said before, Ukraine hasn't been a state other than 1992 to now. And it's been a lousy state to boot most of those years. And I'm not saying this to demote Ukrainian people. I'm saying this because it's the fact. Okay? Ukrainians have been under the control of numerous nations through their history. Russia most often, but not all of Ukraine. Russia has controlled the eastern part of Ukraine for a lot of centuries. So the western part was controlled eventually by the Lithuanians and the Polish in various successions. And finally, with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, controlled the western part, and they ceded the eastern part to Russia. The Crimea, on the other hand, has been in Russian control for centuries. Okay? The British can tell you that. They invaded the Crimea back in the 1853 to 56 Crimean War. And they paid dearly for that. And that's why you got cannons to the west of us, cannons to the east of us, in the charge of the Light Brigade. Remember that? Yeah? Well, the British lost a lot in that war. And by the time 1856 came around, they wanted to get out of that in a hurry. It also cost the Ottoman Empire big time. Later in 1914 to 18, they would lose their empire because of the Crimea. Yeah. Fun, huh? You think that the British say, oh, Gallipoli in the First World War. Yeah, no, that wasn't the worst thing. It was the Crimean battles of 1853 to 56 that really made the British, oh boy, egg-faced in theirs. And the British can tell you, if they have any sense of honor left, that that's what happened. And then you CNN reported back, oh yeah, Putin took over the Ukraine in 2014. It annexed Ukraine. It did not annex Ukraine. It took back what was theirs. It was annexed, yes, but not in 2014. 60 years before, in 1954, it was annexed by a Ukrainian madman named Nikita Khrushchev, who wasn't in power really big time, But in 54, he manipulated the situation so that the Soviet Union's Congress took the portion of the Crimean War because it was attached to the Ukraine SSR and annexed or gave it to the Ukraine SSR from the Russian Federation SSR. Do you get me, Americans? Really? That irked Putin because from 1924 through 1950 through 1964. So you had a 40-year period, 24 to 54 or 64. You had non-Russians running the Soviet Union, a Georgian, otherwise known as Joseph Stalin, who was vicious. And boy, a lot of purges in the Russian Federation, didn't he? Oh, boy. Millions of people died in the Russian Federation because of Joseph Stalin. And not only that, but he was a Georgian. Yeah. Therefore, you can see the hate from Vladimir Putin against Georgia in 2008. And don't forget, Edward Severnyaza under Khrushchev, oh boy, was a Georgian. And he became president of Georgia. That really irked Vladimir Putin. And then you got Nikita Khrushchev, who took power in 58, they said, but he was behind the scenes from 53 to 58. So from 53 to 64, he held really power. Okay? And in 1954, he annexed for his homeland of Ukraine the Crimean Peninsula from the Russian Federation. Yo! You get me, Americans? This is an issue that you guys got a problem with, and it's going to cost World War III. You should bow down and give the Crimea back to Russia where it belongs. The eastern part of Ukraine should go to Russia where it has been for centuries. And the western part, well, you should allow the Ukrainians to be themselves and see how they handle it. And that's the way it's always been. Ukrainians have been under subjugation from one particular after another, but the eastern part has been Russian, and the Crimea has always been Russian. Do you understand, Americans? There is, whether you like it or not, issue here that you got to deal with if you want to end this war. Putin's just mad because from 1924 to 64, his country was ruled by foreigners. That's like having a Mexican rule the United States from 1924 to 53 and have a Canadian rule it from 53 to 64. Do you get me, Americans? This is your favorite alien. Good day.